Good afternoon and welcome to coverage of the Kip Keino Classic from Nairobi. This is the 6th out of 11 Continental Tour Gold meetings for the 2025 season, and it's great to be back in Kenya again. This fixture has become a regular on the Continental Tour Gold circuit. This is the 6th edition of the meeting. Are usually over at the Kasarani Stadium, but that's been revamped for the African Nations Football Champs. So this year we're in the Alunzi Sports Complex, a newish stadium, a 10,000 spectator capacity. It's a military stadium normally, and it looks like it's filling up very nicely here this afternoon in Nairobi. The conditions are brilliant for the athletes. It's around about 25 degrees. All the spectators hiding up in the shade, as you can see in the stands. But the altitude here, the 6,000 feet or so that you get to in the Kenyan capital, is great conditions for throwing, and that's perhaps why we've got the Olympic champions from the men's and the women's side going in the hammer, the Canadian duo Ethan Katzberg and Cameron Rogers. And it does draw the sprinters as well. We've got hotly contested men's 100 metres coming up at the end of the programme, which will pitch African record holder Ferdinand Omanyala against the world junior champion Bayondo Walaza. A lot of those men in the 100 there at the end of the programme. We'll go in the 200 before as well. But as you would expect in Kenya, we've got a lot of endurance action as well. It would be interesting to see how those athletes can cope with the high altitude. We might not see the times we see in some of the other meetings across the world, but as a Continental Tour Gold, there are plenty of world ranking points up for grabs for these athletes, and we look forward to the action over the next couple of hours. I'm Hannah England, and I'm joined by Tim Hutchings.
Thanks, Hannah. Yes, looking forward to this. Bright blue skies above Nairobi, isn't it glorious? It says 21 degrees, but from elsewhere I've seen that it's 25 degrees in Kenya at the moment, in Nairobi at the moment, and certainly a lot of the spectators are lightly dressed and, as Hannah said, in the shade to keep out of the worst of the sun, or the strongest rays of the sun. So I suspect it's a little bit north of 21 degrees centigrade. Anyway, they're looking forward to some fabulous track and field action here. The first event on the track is the women's 400-metre hurdles. Of course, they do love their middle and long distance racing here. Ironically, the racing in Kenya is seldom super fast because of that altitude factor. Thinner air, less oxygen per breath. Don't need to explain any more, do I really? I think, but yeah, it is a lovely, lovely part of the world. Glorious place to go training. I used to go there training myself for a few weeks at a time, many, many years ago. In the last century, in fact, that's how long ago. There's the lineup for this first race, the women's 400-metre hurdles. And Amalie Iuel of Norway goes in lane 5. She won this race last year in 54.89. And that was very, very close to a lifetime best from a couple of years previously. This is only the second time it has been held at this meeting, actually, the 400 hurdles for women. So it is the Iuel here to make a defence of her title. Won the inaugural race last year. There's Eileen Demers of Germany, the 27-year-old, 54.8. She ran last year, and a European Championship finalist as well last year. Tall, 5'10". She'll be pleased with that outside lane draw, I suspect. Bianca Stubler of the USA, close to her personal best back in April in Des Moines. 56.04, her lifetime best from last year. Daniela Ledecka of Slovakia, 55.8, her best in Rome last year. She too a European Championship finalist, 5 times national champion for the Slovakians. That was Iuel of Norway we saw there. We rocketed past the defending champion, in fact, Kristina Halonen of Finland. Only her second 400 hurdles of this season. Her first race was at less than 1 second off her personal best. She's in good form, and that's a good lane draw for Halonen of the Finn. Lena Kloster, 13 times the Norwegian champion. She goes in lane 3. Very experienced, the 35-year-old. Not a bad lane draw, lane 3. Jessica Wright of the USA goes in 2. Silver medalist at the World Indoors last year in Glasgow over 4x400 metres relay. Her best 55.78. And she's within about a second of that this year. That was in the Gaborone meeting in Botswana back on the 12th of April. And Elizabeth Slettum of Norway goes on the inside. Now Slettum, ironically, lane 1, and she's 6'2", 1m87. She won't be delighted with that lane draw, the athlete from Oslo. Again, 12 times Norwegian champion, has good speed. She's a 12 times Norwegian 200 champion. So the fastest time in the world this year, 52.07 by the world record holder, Sydney McLaughlin Levrone. That was on the 3rd of this month. Iuel's stadium record, meeting record, 54.89. Sleto in 1, Wright in 2, Kloster in 3, Halonen in 4, Iuel goes in 5, Slovakian Ledeshka 6, Stubler 7, Demes in lane 8. Well, away they go. Beautiful, bright sunshine as they get around this first bend. And just looking at Iuel out in lane 5, that is her in the pink centre of picture. Looks to have a slight lead here, clearing that barrier nicely. Not much change in the echelon on those lanes outside, although Iuel then makes a big surge going through 200 metres. Probably leads at the moment. There she is in the pink in 5. Also going well on the inside, I think is that in lane 3, Lena Kloster. Her Norwegian compatriot, Kloster, looks to be the closest to, although Iuel has a lead at the moment of 2 or 3 metres. A little awkward off that one. She sat back off that clearance as she came off the bend and into the straight now, and she's struggling now and coming through as Halonen of Finland. Halonen challenging, Halonen looking strong, but she finds something else. Iuel there about 50 metres out, finds something really strong off the final barrier. She wins from Halonen. Demes of Germany out in lane 8 coming through for 3rd place late. But that was a very, very strong run off the final barrier from Iuel. Halonen, I must say, before the final barrier, I thought the Finn was going to catch her. But Iuel recognised the danger, doubled down, dug deep, drove hard off the final barrier and takes that one. Really impressive from the Norwegian to retain effectively what is her title from last year. And we'll wait for confirmation of that time.
I think what we're seeing there, the fatigue on the athletes. I think 4 hurdles is probably right at that limit of taking advantage of the altitude but being affected by the oxygen deficit. Iuel, I was really impressed by the change of pace around about the halfway point. You picked up on it, Tim, in your commentary. It was almost at this point that she started getting into her running, and then that awkward hurdle coming into the home straight. I wonder if that's what gave Halonen sort of the appearance of gaining on her, and then the Norwegian got back into her stride over the last couple of hurdles and was able to open up that gap. I think she's beaten her own meeting record by a few hundredths and backed up her win in Zagreb. That's 2 Continental Tour gold wins sort of back to back, and she's starting to make a name for herself on this level. I just wonder, as a Norwegian, that's someone we might see in Oslo if there is a women's 4 hurdles there.
I'm sure we will, yes. It'll be at least perhaps a warm-up race if it's not in the main programme in Oslo next week. The Diamond League, of course, moving to Europe in earnest. I say next week, in a couple of weeks. Rome is in the coming week. But there is Iuel, 54.80, her winning time. A meeting record, of course, a slight improvement, as Hannah said quite rightly, on her meeting record of last year, 54.89. And that was a lovely run from her. Her idol is Carolina Klüft, one of the greatest heptathletes of all time, of course, the Swede. She has 4 siblings, her partner, Axel Lundsvindval. And there it is, a meeting record, 54.80. What a way to kick off the international programme here. Christina Halonen, 55.32, a personal best, her reward for the Finn. Nylin Demes of Germany, 55.38. Good personal best for Bianca Stubler there of Germany in 4th, 55.48.
But to see them all just gasping for breath at the end of the race, I mean, when we go to these longer races, the athletes are going to be really, really tired. But it's almost a shock for the sprinters. They kind of think, I'll execute my normal race and then wonder what's going on afterwards. And Halonen with a new personal best, but still incredibly out of breath. There's Demes, there's Iuel, sort of barely able to get up off their chairs.
Yeah, you feel the effects afterwards. It's the recovery. I think you can blast with that last 150 or so in oxygen debt and hang on, can't you? But the training effect, of course, of spending 2 or 3 weeks at altitude for the 400 hurdlers is fairly substantial as well. Many people equate 400 hurdles to 800 metres, so you could almost say it's a condensed middle distance race.
Well, I don't know who would have, for some of the endurance athletes, a lot of them will have been training at altitude, either because perhaps they live there all year round if they're from the nations that have a lot of areas of altitude, but a lot of the Europeans, for instance, would have spent the pre-season period at altitude, so hopefully their bodies won't be as shocked racing here. But I think for the sprinters it'd be very unusual, even though there would be a sort of a physiological benefit. It'd be very unusual to find a 4 hurdler training at a significant altitude.
Well, the next fence on the track is the men's 3,000 metre steeplechase. That's an event that they almost regard as their national discipline, I suppose you could say, in Kenya.
Well, they used to, didn't they? They were so dominant, and then Soufiane El Bakkali's just ruined it by taking 3 consecutive global titles. Lemaitre Girma of Ethiopia is now the world record holder, and there's still this sort of sense of pride from the Kenyans that they should rule this event, and they've got some work to do to get back up there. They've got some great young talent, particularly Edmund Serem, who is coming up in this men's 3,000 metre steeplechase. But they've got to have a kind of concerted push. I wonder if they've lost some talent to the roads. Sort of the prize money's increased in the road running over the last few decades. They've lost the strength and depth they had in the men's steeplechase. But I think the crowd will get very excited for this men's steeplechase that's coming up in a couple of minutes. We have got a women's steeplechase as well coming up in around about 50 minutes. So like we said, plenty of endurance action for the Kenyan crowd.
I think you will be pleased that she sort of won over the technical issues she was having. Of course, it is a very demanding event technically, the 400 hurdles, and it takes a few races to get into get your stride pattern right, to get into your rhythm, get your fitness up to racing level. And this will have been a good stride forward, if you'll forgive the pun, for all those athletes, and a nice result. 3 personal bests in that race. 2 personal bests. You were running 54.80, a meeting record, but not a personal best, but really close to a personal best from 3 years ago. That was 54.68 in Munich at those European Championships 3 years back. So brilliant run from Iuel, and she might yet move on this year. She's 31, so I suspect she's just delighted to be running so close to her personal best, and she's smiling there, Hannah, a lovely smile. I'm sure she's thinking, I've got some big times in me this season. I can really move forward.
No, if I can travel all the way across to Kenya at altitude and produce a poor performance like that, there certainly will be more in the tank for Iuel. So they've taken away the 10 hurdles and they replaced them with 4 steeplechase barriers and the water jump for the men's 3,000 metre steeplechase. There was talk this track has been sort of resprayed and elevated and tidied up for the meeting today, and one of the headaches was making sure they had the hurdle, the steeplechase marks in the right place. It's pretty complicated. Every track is slightly unique, so you need to find the right place to put those barriers. They look like they're ready. 13 men lining up for this 3,000 metre steeplechase. It's being paced at 8:15, which is the qualifying mark for Tokyo for the World Championships. So some 3.5 months away. And at 8:15, as we keep talking about the altitude here, a special athlete to kind of get underneath that in these conditions. Abraham Kibiwott is a meeting record holder at 8:17, the bronze medalist from Paris. He's not here today. He has won this event a few times. Plenty of talent here instead. Just whiz down the full field. Lots of Ethiopians, lots of Kenyans. Standout performer Edmund Serem of Kenya is on the other end of the line. Should be wearing hip number 11. Serem, world under-20 champion last year. He's been doing very well on the Diamond League circuit. See him there just rolling his ankles out on his toes. Third from the left, that's Edward Serem. Jonah Koech, Bahrain, another one to watch just inside of him, the 2-time Asian champion in his first race since 2023. It'll be interesting to see if he can get back underneath 8:10. Their way here, pacemakers. Kip Langat is hoping to take them through the first half, and then Konez will take over. They're aiming for 2:45 per kilometre, 5:30 for 2K, because that gives you exactly 8:15, which, as I said, is the world qualifying mark. Plenty of world ranking points. Different nations apply different rules for how you qualify and selected to represent the nation at those world championships. Some nations say you have to hit the qualifying time, but many nations respect this world ranking system and the fact you might get an invitation from World Athletics. So lots of points up for grabs for these athletes.
Absolutely, yes. Well, we saw 5,000 metres in the warm-up programme, Hannah, about half an hour ago before we came on air, and they went out at 60-second per lap pace, and it very quickly reduced to 65, 66 and slower per lap, and the winning time ended up being 13:34 rather than the 12:30 tempo that they set out at. So the altitude does get you. You can feel fine for a few minutes, but very quickly it does grab you by the lungs and slow you down. And I wonder if that'll be the case in this steeplechase. We'll see. They're looking for a quick tempo. They're looking for 2:45 at 1K, so 8:15 pace is what they're targeting. The meeting record at 8:17 is achievable, but at altitude, that's great running. You've got to take off many seconds from that to get the equivalent at sea level.
Well, they were pretty swift there through the first 400 metres. That's the only lap they run as a full 400 on the on the lane one of the track before they cut in and get involved with the water jump. And I think I clocked it around about 62, 63, which is sub 8 minute pace. And that's way too quick. But we said this yesterday. We had Miriam Bozanani of Tunisia win the women's event in Bydgoszcz yesterday with a really fast first K. That first kilometre is often a little bit faster, so I think we might see the same from these men. But the cumulative fatigue at 5,000 feet of altitude, it could really start to hurt in that last kilometre. But many of these athletes will spend much of the year training and competing up at altitude. So the pacemaker doing a great job, Kip Langat, at the moment. He spread the field out. That gives him plenty of opportunity to sight the barriers. And I've just lost sight of Edmund Serem. No, he's still there, I think, in third place. He must have just been hiding behind one of the other athletes. Edmund Serem, the 17-year-old, not stepping on the water jump there, just flying straight over. Still in a very strong position. Could be heading for the kilometre split. It'll be coming up just before the start-finish line, some point between this barrier and the start-finish line. So they are very much on target for the meeting record and for that World Athletics qualifying mark.
Yeah, there we are, 2:43 for that first kilometre. That is quick, Hannah, 2:43.46. Wow, that's pretty much spot on 8:10 pace. I don't know if they'll be able to maintain this. Kip Langat, the first pacemaker, is only an 8:58 performer, but Wilberforce Kones, the second pacemaker, is an 8:21 performer. So he should be able to take the field through to halfway and beyond at this tempo, at a good solid tempo. It's sort of setting up pretty well.
And Kones, you're right, Tim, that's just the sort of pacemaker you want to be taking you through that tough sort of middle kilometre. If he can get Edward Serem anywhere near sort of a kilometre to go or 800 to go, I think Edward Serem will be very pleased. Again, unorthodox, going straight over, not stepping on the barrier. You see the athletes that step on the barrier, they get further through the water, and then the idea is you sort of slow down less, whereas if you hurdle it, land in the deep end, you've got to fight your way up and out of it. But Serem, he looks absolutely fine with that technique, and you can't fault him.
But so many of the best hurdlers, particularly the Kenyans over the years, do hurdle the water jump. They don't put their foot on it, and they seem to do pretty well and break world records and so on. So there's a trade-off, isn't there, between the slowing down effect of putting a foot on the barrier or maintaining the fluency of hurdling the barrier, but landing in, as you said, maybe slightly deeper water, but going into the water and coming out of it at a greater speed. It's interesting argument for the biomechanics.
Well, I think the fatigue just sets it. I think you're all right hurdling everything maybe for the first kilometre. You're going to have to do probably six water jumps, and you're okay for a bit, but that fatigue's going to set in. Edward Serem there, he was just ushering Kones along, saying let's pick it up, and maybe he'd saying to Kones, I'd rather you gave me fewer laps at a faster pace. They've been hitting 65-second laps, which would be underneath 8:10 pace. Edward Serem has gone under 8:10 3 times this year. He's had a great season so far. Second at the Shanghai Diamond League, and then third at Rabat, and a new personal best at 8:07. So he's lost patience with the pacemaker here, Edward Serem. He's decided he needs to go quicker. I think this will be 3 to go for the 17-year-old. And they have slowed 68. That was 3 seconds slower than the previous couple of laps. And I think that's why we saw Edmund Serem be frustrated with the pacemaker. And he's going to have a long run for home here. And the athletes are starting to gather behind him.
Yes, they are. But Serem is a really high caliber performer. I mean, as you say, only 17, but won the World Junior title last year when he was only just 17. And that was in Lima. And he looks strong here, doesn't he? He is lean, but he also moves really well. Skips over that one with no trouble at all. Doesn't have a perfect hurdling technique. 5:31 at 2K, 5:31.60. He's still on schedule, Hannah, to be well under 8:20. And actually that target of 8:15, the meeting record, remember, by Abraham Kibiwot from 5 years ago, 8:17.60, is under threat if he can work really hard this next couple of laps.
I think it's Kimuchi Godana of Ethiopia. Nope, apologies. misreading that bib, just trying to make it out in the background there. I can't actually see this athlete on my start list. Daraba, there he is. Daraba is making inroads into Edmund Serem here with 2 laps to go for the leader. And I wonder, the noise here in the stadium, it's pretty loud. The athletes are getting, the fans are getting excited about an event they understand and that they really enjoy. And Edmund Serem, I think if that gap reduces any more, I think Daraba of Ethiopia, it will start to sense that he could get back on terms with the teenager, and that's the last thing you want to give the athlete behind you, any sort of hope that they could get involved.
Well, it says Daraba, I'm wondering if it's Deriba, Germa. There's a slight misspelling on that name for the athlete in second place, but Serem, if anything, pulling away now. That gap's probably about 17, 18 metres now. Penultimate time at the water jump. There's that technique. You can see he skips over it, hurdles it, but does land in deeper water. And there's a good example. The athletes put their foot on the barrier. They only get one foot marginally wet into shallow water. So, yeah, make up your own minds. And he's tired, Hannah, isn't he? Because he looked a little laboured at that water jump, and he stutters at that barrier there before the bell.
So Edward Serem, 17-year-old from Kenya, takes the bell. He has got a lead over Daraba of Ethiopia. They're both looking tired, those top 2. Could be some attacks coming from further back down the field, but Edward Serem, world junior champion, that's something, it's a wonderful accolade. It's a very hard title to win. And we mentioned the Kenyan dominance they used to have in this event. So many global titles back to back, the likes of Brimmer and Kiprutu, Ezekiel Kemboi, Conselsus, Kiprutu, and Kip Keino, that this meeting is named after, won the steeplechase at the 1972 Olympics. And Edward Serem, he's still out in the lead at the moment with 200 metres to go, but there's a huge charge here. There's an athlete flying down the back straight. He could meet Edward Serem on the water jump here. Edward Serem, I'm not sure he's going to expect any company or have sensed the athlete closing behind him. Edward Serem, the fastest in the field. He should have something in reserve here. But he's coming under great pressure from Fikadu of Ethiopia. He's got a lifetime best of 8:44 set in this stadium a couple of years ago. But Serem does find something in the last 50. Is it going to be enough to hold off the Ethiopian? Delight for Edward Serem. Slowed significantly in the final kilometre there. Really paid for a strong opening kilometre and through that 5:31 through 2 kilometres. Perhaps too much for Edward Serem at this altitude in these conditions, but he'll be delighted to have held off Fikadu of Ethiopia, who I think might have ran a lifetime best there.
Oh, he's run a massive lifetime best, Hannah. I mean, 8:44 down to about 8:27 in second place, and third place was Kidana in yellow, who has also smashed his personal best. He was an 8:42 athlete. He's run about 8:28. I mean, all credit to Serem for finding the legs to accelerate that when he came under threat, and he looked tired for the last lap and more.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if there's a big screen available for the athletes, but I think if he'd seen the charge that was going on behind from Dinka Fikadu, he might have started kicking a little bit earlier, perhaps into that water jump. But you get strange results when you run a distance at over sort of 800 at this altitude. I think you can have massive changes in that last third of the race, and I think that's what nearly happened here. We could see Edward Serem was super tired, as was Daraba, the athlete that was in second place for so long. He was really, really struggling, and then it was almost Dinka Fikadu pacing it really well because he was so strong in that last 300 metres. Serem getting the better off that last barrier, but he had to work for it.
Didn't he? Just because Fikadu there was super strong through the last 50. But Serem somehow found another gear, and that winning time, just waiting for it to be confirmed. It's half a result has come up, but it's not the right name on top. It says Jonah Koech, and that is not the case. So just waiting for that result to be tidied up. We'll bring it to you as soon as we can. The next event on the track, the women's 800 metres, where the Kenyans, of course, have a massive talent.
Speaker box number 1.
Fikadu looks to have recovered pretty quickly from that final sprint.
Number 3.
Still waiting for that result to come up.
That's the difference when you've got a group of athletes that spend quite a lot of time at altitude versus the women's 400-metre hurdlers that were really struggling. So we had a men's javelin competition earlier on. This is Anderson Peters of Grenada. He has thrown well here before in the past, but he didn't quite hit his groove here today in Nairobi. Anderson Peters, after a good showing in Doha, we of course saw great throws over 90 metres from Julian Weber and Niraj Chopra, but Anderson Peters today just the best of 76.80 in the second round, and he was down in 7th place.
Julius Jaego, well, in the first round he opened with 76 metres. As you can see, Jaego 76.03. This is second round effort. Really puts a lot of force behind that, Jaego. And that one a little better. 78 metres, 74. This obviously was a little while ago.
Leandro Ramos of Portugal, nearly. He does a bit of a cartwheel at the end. Normally it's a bit tidier than that, but he got the javelin a long way down the field. 80.68 is his best here today. Coming in round 3, that's his 4th competition of the year over 80 metres. So the Portuguese man finding good consistency in 2025, and that put him ahead of that throw we saw from Julius Jaego and put him up into 3rd place.
Yes, Jaego's throw, that 78.74 in round 2, was his best. He ended up in 4th place. Jaego, in 5th place rather, excuse me. Jaego, the world champion back in 2015. But Roller of Germany, well, the German is one of the great throws with a best of 93 metres. And that one from Roller, the Olympic javelin champion in Rio back in 2016. Roller going up to 80.79 in the first round. Ended up being his only valid throw. It was the second best throw of the day, but he was well beaten in Nairobi.
It's actually Roller's furthest throw in 6 years after losing his coach earlier this week, and I wonder if it was just kind of get that one throw out and then just have to compose himself. But it's a brilliant throw from the German, but it wasn't good enough, as you say, Tim, to get the win. Luis Mauricio da Silva of Brazil really took the opportunity here in these favourable conditions in Nairobi with the low altitude. You can see the wind into his face, so he might have had to negotiate that, but it was a huge round 2 throw from the Brazilian. He 86.34, adding a good chunk to his own South American record that he set in Paris last year. That's over the qualifying mark for Tokyo, and a big win for the Brazilian.
And he'd opened with 84.54. He started off brilliantly. And then that huge throw in the second round. He backed it up with an 83.22. But that was the winning distance for Da Silva. Winning, as you can see, by almost 6 metres from Roller and Ramos. 86.34. New personal best, new South American record, as Hannah quite rightly says, for the Brazilian 25-year-old. And there is a new force, I feel, building from South America. That is fantastic. I wonder how he'll go in the big meets this summer and through to the World Champs in Tokyo.
Quite a lot of throws action here in Nairobi. Those men's and the women's hammer throw competitions taking place today as well, with both of those Olympic champions, Ethan Katzberg and Cameron Rogers. And we've got a women's long jump as well that will be going on. But getting close to some more endurance action. We mentioned a great women's 800 metres coming up. We have got both men's and women's 8s and 15s and steeplechases. And we had some 5Ks in the pre-programme as well. So laps on laps here in Nairobi.
Well, there's a massive great racing to look forward to. The meeting will conclude with the 100 metres with Omanyala. They're a sprint darling in Kenya. That's the last race of the meeting. But now the women's 800 metres, and what a classy race this is. The meeting record set last year by Mary Moraa. Moraa, the world champion just a few years back. Ran 157.9 last year, and her younger sister goes in this one, Sarah Moraa. You can see she is going to be in lane 6. The African champion last year. She's just 19 years old, Sarah Moraa. 159.3 she ran last year, a personal best. She's already under 2 minutes this year. Let's have a look at the field. Oratile Noe of Botswana, the 25-year-old, is a 158 performer on the outside there. The pacemaker is Ruto. She will be sharing that lane, as you can see, with Noe. And Ruto, well, she's just 17 years old. She's tasked with going out in 58 seconds dead and supposed to go to about 450 meters. Let's hope she gets that right. Shafika Maloney of St. Vincent, 4th in the Olympic Games last year. She ran personal best in the Olympic heat and semi-final. And there is Sarah Morar, just 19 years old. Her older sister Mary has won this race the last 2 years, actually. Mary won the World Championships in Budapest 23. Nelly Jepkosgei to the right there. Suffered a 3-year doping ban from 21 to 24. Now runs for Bahrain. She's the fastest in the field. She ran a Bahrain national record last year, 1:57. She's run 2:2 this year. She shares that lane with Dorcas Ewoy, who is a 1:58 performer. Then Bopape. Then on Bopape of South Africa, just 2:02 and 2:03 in her last 2 races. Lilian Odira, 2nd in the African Championships last year. Runs for Kenyan prisons, 6th in the World Championship semi-finals in Nanjing back in March, so in good form. She's run 2:01 this year outdoors. 1:58 though is her personal best, Odira. Judy Kimunto, 3rd in the African Under-20 Championships a couple of years ago. This is her first race in 3 weeks. In her last race in Dubai, she ran 2:02.
In lane number 2.
And then in lane 2, Aviwe Hoboloshe of South Africa. She's a 2:01 performer. That was in Potchefstroom just a month ago, her lifetime best. And Vanessa Skone of Belgium, she shares that lane with the 28-year-old who has run 2:01 in Belfast, actually, in that personal best just a couple of weeks ago in Northern Ireland from Skone. And Chepkirui, Maureen Chepkirui, just 19 years old. Her lifetime best, 2:13. I wonder if she can improve on that here from lane 1. Fastest time in the world this year by Duguma, former world indoor champion, 1:56.64. That was in Shaojing at the beginning of this month. So Maloney in the pink, St. Vincent's athlete, her nickname Fifi, has very good speed, 50.6 for 400 meters. And last year, 1:57.5 she ran in that Paris final to just miss out on the medals behind Keely Hodgkinson. And she cuts across Maloney right onto the shoulder of Jepkosgei, Nelly Jepkosgei. And indeed, it's not quite quick enough for her. She moves into the lead past Nelly Jepkosgei, who is the fastest in the field, as I said, and this is a very healthy tempo being laid down for the first 300 meters. Goodness me, they're on about, 57 flat pace. I don't know what's happened to the pacemaker, but it's Maloney who's taking it on as they approach the bell, and it is so quick, Hannah.
Shafika Maloney, you mentioned all that 400-metre speed. I think she used that in that first 100 metres, and the pacemaker just going through the finish line there. Ruto couldn't get on terms with Maloney, couldn't get to the front of the field, and good decision-making there from Shafika Maloney just to push on. If she's feeling good and she wants a good run out here, why wait for the pacemaker? And at the moment, Shafika Maloney looking full of running, but she's done a lot of work.
Well, she's had a really good year so far, Maloney. She's already 4 times under 2 minutes this year, including indoor meetings. And down the back straight, she's got about a 2 or 3 metre lead. She needs to work hard here to maintain that lead, though, because the pack are closing up on her. Odira is closing too. She won the Kenyan Olympic trials last year. Lilian Odira in the red, coming around the outside. Maloney has maybe gone a little bit early here as Odira kicks off her shoulder. So much easier to come off somebody's shoulder than to be in the lead. Maloney working hard though on the inside. She's not giving up, but coming down the outside and looking really strong is Noe battling away here with Odira. Who's going to get it? Odira's going to get it on the lean. Stronger over the last 10 or 15 meters. 1:58.32. 62.13 that second lap. A 56 and a 62 is not the most economical way to run 1:58, but what a big win there for Lilian Odira. A semi-finalist in the Olympic Games last year, having won the Kenyan Olympic trials. The Kenyan prisons woman will have had her colleagues punching the air there. She hasn't raced since the 26th of April, so it's her first race in a month, and that was a very modest 4:21, 1,500 metres, albeit a personal best for Odira. But that was a great battle against Noe, who is a 1:58 athlete herself, and I suspect has run a personal best there. And just checking, they might both have run personal bests. We'll have to wait for those times to be confirmed. Super race.
Odira did a good job there in the busy pack behind Maloney and Jepkoskai. She kept herself out of trouble, whereas for me, Oratil Norway, she was pinned on the inside. I was thinking, where is the Botswana? And she's been so good this season. And I thought down the home straight, maybe Norway had judged it right and was going to find a way all the way to the lead. But I think, unfortunately, she had to spend so much energy getting there. Whereas Odira, for me, if we look back at some of the clips early on in the race, you can see her there in the red crop top with black shorts. She's always out of trouble. She was always running freely, whereas Norway was weaving through the field. Good showing from Sarah Morar as well. She ended up with third place, just getting past Maloney in the closing stages. But Maloney, she's a great runner, and I think she needs to use that 400 metre speed. It's one of her strengths, but perhaps just got it 20 or 30 metres wrong today, but she'll learn from that, and I'm sure the altitude will have sort of changed the way she was fading down the home straight as well.
Well, it's exactly what these early season races are for, to polish your racing brain, get your fitness up to racing fitness. And there you can see the pair of them absolutely delighted with that result. Goodness me. Norway and Odira, a battle royal over the last 50 or 60 metres, easing away from the long-time leader, Shafika Maloney, who will get better, she will get fitter. But Odira running 1:58.31. It was a personal best for her. That is quite something at altitude. And Dorotile Norway of Botswana behind the Kenyan. She runs 1:58.47. That too is a personal best for her by half a second.
And Sarah Morar as well. That's her first time under 1:59. She's on 1:58.96. I think that's the celebrations from those two as they saw that they under 2 is brilliant, but then to go to 1:58 as well. Great day for those two, especially at home in front of an appreciative crowd.
The Morar sisters, we'd better get used to that, hadn't we? We'll see them in the same race, I should think, pretty soon. Yeah, Sarah Morar, 1:58.96. Good spot that for the World Under-20 champion from Lima last year. I know her sister will have been a keen viewer of that one. Wow. She ran a recent personal best for 400. Did Sarah Morar, actually on the same day as the heat. She ran 54.09 and then 52.81, so she has come on.
Have a look back at the men's hammer competition that took place a little bit earlier. This is Daniel Raba of Hungary, Hungarian number 2 behind Bence Halas. The Olympic silver medalist was soundly beaten by Michaela Kokhan yesterday in Bydgoszcz. And goes Raba, 75.11 so far this season. And hammer, one of the events that suits this altitude, this environment here. And round 3 for Raba was his best though, 75.93. So a season's best, and good enough for second place at that stage in the competition. And he moved down to third place overall. Maciej Gogurczyk of Croatia had his best throw in round 5. Good series up until this point at 75, 74, 74, and then this. Best throw of his career, his first throw over 75 metres. Apologies, no, he has been over 75 metres at the European Champs, but today it was 76.68 for a massive season's best, and adding 60, 70 centimetres or so to his lifetime best. You can see what that means for the Croatian. He's absolutely delighted. And the hammer, remember, it doesn't take place in the Diamond League. This is the highest level that the hammer throwers get to compete at, the most number of ranking points they can get. Best prize money, and Ethan Katzberg back to the site where he set his national record and his personal best here last year. It was a massive 84.38 for the Olympic champion last year. And his best though came in the 4th round today, 82.73. That is a world lead, goes ahead of Jan Chassenot of France. So Ethan Katzberg improving on his opening competition of the season, 81.22 in Germany last week. And he's out to 82.73. The Olympic champion is the world leader for 2025 and the winner in Nairobi. Maciej Gogurczyk, a personal best and second place. And Daniel Ruber, season's best and third place for the Hungarian.
Yeah, Katzberg maintaining that form from last year, and he looked so superb at the Olympic Games. Confirmation of that win for Lilian Odira, 1:58.31, a personal best. Same for Norway and Morar, Botswana and Kenya respectively in second and third. Personal best there for the first 3. Brilliant running for those 3 to go under 1:59. And I suppose in a way you could say that She acted as a pacemaker, did Sharika Maloney, for that field through the first 700.
Dramatic entrance for the sprinters. To see what sort of poses we're going to get from the 8 men entered for the men's 200 metres. That's the next event on the track. We have got 100 metres coming up in 70 minutes, and a lot of these athletes are doubling. Asamoah Race and Masamongani are down for both events. Dennis Marr of Kenya will go in lane 1. Season's best and personal best set in Nairobi this year of 2017. And this is Caleb Law. That's not Caleb Law, that's Simon Verstraeten. I don't know what order they're bringing these men out, but that isn't Caleb Law, like the graphic said. That was Verstraeten, the national record holder for Belgium. So I have to wait till the smoke clears before we commit to who's who. That's Caleb Law. The 21-year-old Australian took a bronze at the World Junior Championships a couple of years ago behind Blessing Afrifa and Letsile Tebogo. Tebogo holds the meeting record here at 1971 from last year. Let's see who's coming out of the mist next. Wayne Asamoah of Canada. Only outdoor race so far this season as part of the Canadian quartet that took the first ever gold in the mixed 4x100 at the World Relays in Guangzhou. William Race of Switzerland was a bronze medalist at the European Championships when his teammate Timothée Mumenthaler took the gold. So it was a good event for the Swiss athletes with 2 on the podium. Sean Masamongani of South Africa, a sub-10 performer, 991 at his best, NCAA finalist over the 100 and 200, and the Olympic semi-finalist in the longer sprint. Joseph Fahnbulleh of Liberia up next, multiple-time global finalist, 5th in Tokyo, 7th in Paris at the last 2 Olympic Games. That guy's not running the 200, I don't think, unless they've got a spare lane for him. Yeah, didn't see Sinisifo Dambile of South Africa come out through the gates. Got really close to 20 seconds in Gaborone. It'd be a real shame if he's not down there in lane 7. Caleb Law, part of a strong group of Australian sprinters at the moment. Gout, Ronan Browning, and we've got Lachlan Kennedy going in the 100 metres later as well. But, unsure whether Dambile... No, that looks like we haven't got Sinisifo Dambile in lane 7. So Verstraeten of Belgium, lonely run for him out in lane 8. Fahnbulleh is going to have a lot of ground there between his lane 6 and lane 8 to try and gauge his effort. Moir of Kenya in 1, Law of Australia in 2, Asamoah of Canada in 3, Race of Switzerland in 4, Masamongani of South Africa in 5, Fahnbulleh of Liberia in 6, empty lane 7, Verstraeten of Belgium goes in lane 8 for the men's 200 metres. Very, very good start for Masamongani there of South Africa. Masamongani way up on Fahnbulleh round the bend. Can Masamongani hold this into the straight? Good running from Verstraeten out in lane 8 as well, but Masamongani trying to hold on to this lead. He hits 50 to go. Is he slowing or is he going to find something here? Fahnbulleh just eats up the ground outside of him, and what a last 60 from the Liberian. The clock doesn't stop in the stadium, but I think Joseph Fahnbulleh, he didn't get the best of starts. He shakes his head. That was pretty dramatic from Fahnbulleh, and well done for holding his head, holding his nerve and coming through in the last 50 there. But he looks, I wonder if there was something up with his blocks or something. I wonder if he slipped out of the blocks.
I think his block slipped because he had an appalling start. We didn't get a close enough shot to see if it was the blocks that slipped, but that can be the only explanation, because certainly the man inside him, Maswanganye, who led until about 3 metres from the line, blasted past him in the first 20 metres, and he was never in it. I thought that was his race done and dusted. Watch there, second away from the camera in lane 6, Joseph Fahnbulleh. I don't know if he stumbled. I don't think his blocks did slip. I think he sort of stumbled and left himself with a mountain of work to do. But he's a huge fella, the biggest in the field. Here he is in last place, pretty much last place coming off the bend. And his last 50 metres was quite spectacular. Fahnbulleh, Joseph Fahnbulleh of Liberia, he's a 1983 performer. Look at that, 50 metres out, he's 4 metres down. And he comes back, tears past the man inside him there, Maswanganye, to take that one. We'll wait for that time to be confirmed.
The only thing we couldn't see was his back foot placed on the blocks, whether the part they put their foot in, whether that actually slipped, because the blocks itself, kind of the body of the blocks, didn't look like it moved. But Joseph Fahnbulleh, he looks very frustrated. almost, it's not just with himself. I think maybe with the situations, but he's been credited with 20.4 from pretty much a standing start. It's very impressive.
Oh, he gave the field about 5 metres. I mean, that's ridiculous. The frustrating thing for him is that run was probably worth around 20 seconds dead, if not quicker, if he had had a decent start. Because running at altitude, obviously it helps the athletes. They're thinner air. They come here looking for really quick times. And that's reflected, Hannah, by the meeting record, which is 19.71 by Tobogo, Botswana, last year. Now, that was at a different stadium, a different track. But nonetheless, the altitude is a hugely beneficial factor for the sprinters. And I think Fahnbulleh is frustrated that he's missed that opportunity.
I think you're right, Tim. We've seen Courtney Lindsay, Fred Curley go in the 19.7s here as well over the last few years. And Fahnbulleh's clearly in good shape. He's having a good year so far. Second in Rabat over the weekend, third in Doha before that. He's been getting faster with every race. I wonder if there's a spare lane in that 100 in around about an hour's time, whether Fahnbulleh would go for that. There's a result of the men's 200, a win for Liberia and Joseph Fahnbulleh in the closing stages, 20.4. Sean Masamangani holds on for second place for South Africa, and William Race coming through for third for Switzerland.
Well, the crowd loving it, those little red party hats and all, whatever does the job to cover your head, protect it from the sun. A lot of spectators really enjoying the rhythm and flow of this meeting with some great racing. Nice mix of sprints and middle distance and long distance, that steeplechase. They had a 5,000 about an hour ago, just before we came on air. Many youngsters too will be inspired by the unfolding dramas on the track. Now, next event on the track is the men's 1,500 metres. Followed by the women's steeplechase, then the women's 100, the men's 800, the women's 1,500. Boy, do they love their middle distance racing.
I think having Ferdinand Omanyala here, the African record holder in the 100, it's a great draw for the crowd, but I think the appreciation of the Kenyan community for sprints, Omanyala has really pulled them towards that, and they're very appreciative of track and field full stop, but they would always be biased to an endurance event because that's where they were going to be higher up the field, that's where they've picked up medals internationally. But to have an athlete like Ferdinand Omanyala and also Kani Simbini for South Africa, another African athlete picking up medals, getting those medals at the World Indoor Championships, it's just bringing that focus and attention away from the endurance events. It's great to see the fans getting excited about the shorter events too.
But isn't it funny the way that African athletics generally over this last 10-12 years has come on in so many different areas, other disciplines. Javelin, you'd never have expected a javelin champion to come out of Kenya or any other African country a few years ago. You'd have never expected great sprinters to come out of Kenya, but now they're developing a crop of them. There's that field for this men's 1,500 metres, 14 strong. 2 previous winners go in this race. Meeting record 3:31.01 by Abel Kipsang. That was back in 2022. And Kipsang is a starter here. 4th in the Tokyo Olympic Games, 4th in Budapest back in 2023 at the World Indoors. Bronze medalist at the World Indoors in Belgrade in 22. He's a serial great performer in major championships. Look out too for Daniel Munguti as a gold medal from the mixed relay in the World Cross Country last year in Belgrade. So we look at this field. Robert Kimutai Korea and Peter Nabai will be the pacemakers. Can't see Nabai there. Warweru is there. Robert Simotwo, watch him. He's a 3:30 performer. We're rocketing past all this field. Kibet is there. Matthew Kipchumba Kipsang, he's in good shape. 13:19 for 5,000 last week. Hosea Kiprop on the inside, just 19 years old. 3:42 performer. I wonder if he can produce a personal best here. The Ugandan in white to write a picture. Tilnte of Ethiopia, also second to right. He's just 19. Beside him, Kibet third from right. He's 19. In fact, 4 19-year-olds there to write a picture. Musa is 4th from right. He's a 3:39 performer. So a lot of these young lads desperate to grab this opportunity. The metric mile then underway in Nairobi. Kipsang, we know, is in good shape. That's Matthew Kipchumba Kipsang. Abel Kipsang goes in this one as well. And Robert Kimutai Korea goes straight to the front, the pacemaker. They're looking to get to 800 in 1:53 to 1,000 in 2:21, and the target is 3:33. I think they're being realistic with that, because that meeting record of 3:31 is spectacular. Fastest time in the world this year outdoors, 3:30.7 by Botswana's Masalela. And they go through 300 metres there. The pacemaker may be a little bit too crisp, a little bit too optimistic here. He's gone through in about 40 flat. That's the next 4 or 5 guys behind him, probably in around 41. But they really are shifting. There's 400 metres, 54.35. Yeah, that is unfortunately a little bit too quick, I think, for this time of the season and at altitude and for a field of this calibre.
That could be very painful. I think in the last lap, that opening circuit at 54, that's going to catch up. I know the athletes were slightly behind. They were probably 55 with Abel Kipsang leading them, but the pacemaker's already slowed down ever so slightly. So it's Keita. Where's Abel Kipsang gone? He was in there at the start of the race. There, right towards the back of the field. I wonder if he's judged this correctly. I wonder if he looked at 300. Apologies, I was looking at the sponsor vest, the Nike vest, and thinking, well, it must be we're one of the fastest men in the field. He'll be right up there. But instead, it's Keita that's kind of taken the bait, and you can see Abel Kipsang just leading this second pack at the moment. That could still be a very good tactical choice from Abel Kipsang.
Well, I think when you get into the meat of the season, the big Diamond League meetings, 54.55 for the first lap of 1,500 is just about okay. But at this time of the season, 54.35 is a couple of seconds too quick. And I wonder who'll withstand this. They go through 800, 1:52.71. So they've run that second lap in around 58 seconds. Not a lot of let up. I mean, funnily enough, they wanted 1:53 at 800, but I don't think they wanted it with that split 54 and 58.
And that's really hard when you slow down that much in the second lap to then lift again. I think it's a real opportunity here for someone, if they can kick off the front whilst everyone else is trying to up their pace. They could get a bit of a jump on the field, but it is still Keita out in the lead. And they will have a burn up over the last 300 metres, but it's all going to be relative, given the conditions, given that fast opening lap.
Vincent Kibet Keita, then World Under-20 champion 4 years ago, comes towards the bell. He's in the lead at the moment, but he's got them breathing down his neck, including Duncan Waweru, who's only a 3:41 performer, the 26-year-old. He's in third place at the moment in red on the outside there in that Kenyan strip. They come round towards 1,200 metres. So it's gone 54.3, then 1:52.7 at 800. The 1,200 time, 2:53.71. So that third lap exactly 61 seconds. It's much slower, and now they kick away down the back straight, and we could still see a pretty impressive time here off that rather silly early pace, 54.3 for the first lap as they go into the final bend here. Looking fabulous here is Kipsang. Kipsang pushing on. And they come round the top bend, and is that Keita back in front? It's Abel Kipsang, in fact, who has hit the front this time. Keita back in third, but about 10 or 12 metres back, and I think it's the two Kipsangs out in front. It's Abel Kipsang's going to take this one. Watch the clock, 35.10, 3:35.10. And that final lap, 56.37, and all the hard running and that coming for Abel Kipsang in the last 200 metres. He judged that one nicely, and you were dead right, Hannah. Sitting around at the back and going through probably in about 56 seconds for the first 400 metres was a far wiser choice of tempo for a race this early in the season than 54.3 or being anywhere near sub 55. But Abel Kipsang, well, at 28, he's a wise old racer. He's a 3:29 performer at his best, and a man who is serially up in the top half dozen at major championships.
I think we look at the men's 800 and 1500 here at the Kip Keino Classic. We've had some real breakthrough performances. Emmanuel Wanyonyi, one of his first kind of major performances was here a couple of years ago. Then he goes on to become Olympic champion. And then you've got Reynold Chariot as well, has won this the last couple of times. Abel Kipsang won it 3 years ago, and then it's over to Reynold Chariot, who's now doing brilliant things on the Diamond League stage. So I think it is a kind of test of talent, of form, and for me a bit of a predictor when you go forward for the season. That the men that managed to win here at the Kip Keino Classic, I do see them kind of continue to succeed through the season.
Well, Abel Kipsang hit the front halfway around that final bend, looked tremendously strong down the home straight here. He is a man who gets it right again and again. He won here in 2022. Reynold Chariot has won the last couple of years, but Abel Kipsang has his name back at the top of the pile. from this Continental Tour Gold meeting in Nairobi. And again, left a picture there, looks to have recovered very quickly. And his namesake Matthew Kipsang having a really solid run as well there.
I thought Matthew Kipsang, he had a go. It was like 250 to go. Abel Kipsang was building and he was coming back to the group. And then it was Matthew Kipsang, he shot off the front. And I thought, hang on a minute, has he done it here? Has he managed to sort of almost kick whilst someone else is trying to kick and they're too far back? But in the end, Abel Kipsang, he had so much to spare down the home straight, so much extra speed and strength to show off. At the end, Matthew Kipsang, he did get himself that second place, I think, with that move down the back straight. But I don't think today he was going to get anywhere near Abel Kipsang.
Well, the world lists for this season include all the indoor performances, of course. Jakob Ingebrigtsen with the fastest time in the world this year. That was at Lieven back in the middle of February when he ran 3:29, quite astonishingly indoors. And still the world lists for 1500 metres dominated by indoor performances with that 3:35.09. Well, ranked reasonably highly on the outdoor list for this summer from Abel Kipsang. Matthew Kipsang second, Vincent Keita third. There it is. The Kenyans totally dominant, of course, in front of the home crowd. Sendel Musa of Ethiopia, the best of the rest, 3:39 in fifth place. But that's a very competent run from Abel Kipsang, showing real experience. No panic when they went out super fast in the early stages. Coming home for a pretty comfortable win, 3:35.09 Abel Kipsang over Matthew Kipsang, 3:35.87.
Should have the female steeplechase athletes just getting ready there on the back straight for 7.5 laps. You can still see the steeplechase barriers ready at the start. They won't use any barriers for the first 200 metres or so. There's another sort of young field assembled for this women's steeplechase. Lots of teenagers. We've actually got the athletes that came second to fifth in the World Junior Championships in Lima.
Well, we go to this women's long jump, which has been unfolding, and Lesti in this field, Diana Lesti of Hungary, the 27-year-old. She's a 6:75 performer at her best. That was a couple of years ago on home ground in Budapest. She's a Budapest-based athlete, studies at the Budapest Business University, and she's a former Hungarian Athletics Breakthrough Award winner. Nice technician, but it's so dependent upon speed, and I'm not sure she generated a lot of speed and drive off the board there. Lesti.
Wait to see if it was a valid attempt.
6:31 her best this year, and that, despite the slightly broken up track, runway is quite clearly a no jump for my money.
The ladies in the long jump are looking for a 6.86.
That certainly looked like a no jump. Surely she isn't going to be given that.
Outside the prize money, of course, and one Continental
Lesti
points that are on offer
waiting
today.
anxiously.
Kip Keino Classic.
And she has been given it. She sees a mark for that. That's remarkable.
It has moved her to
That's
third
weird.
with 6.58.
And Lesti opened with a no jump, then a 6:30 in the second round, and then accredited with 6:58 in round 3. I'm astonished.
And they have got a slight following wind down there. Some gusts of up over a metre, all legal, sort of 1.3. It's the strongest wind I've seen down there. Lesti accepting the hugs for that 6:58. That would be, quite a significant season's best.
Strange, isn't it, Anna? She is 8th and last in the jumping order. And that concludes 3 rounds. That should conclude 3 rounds.
There's a lead at the moment for Alessandra Campo of Brazil, 6:81. And then Esra Owis of Egypt in second place. And Lesti, with that jump there, putting herself into third place. At the end of 3 rounds, they might take a pause now to reorder everyone, let them jump in reverse order from 8th through to 1st for the final 3 rounds.
Yeah, Campos, that 6:81 coming in the second round as we see Lesti getting her gear back on. Esra Owis of Egypt in second place after 3 rounds with 6:70. Again in round 2, that was bracketed by a couple of no jumps, but the standard nice out there, plus 1.3 the win behind Owis's 6:70 in round 2, and Campos exactly 1 metre per second behind her 6:81. Campos with that 681, by the way, jumping a very significant personal best. Longest jump of her life, her previous best was 669 from 2 years ago.
Well, again, it should be good conditions. Jumping at altitude, you should be able to get extra speed, less air resistance,
Tailwind.
slight following wind. Yeah, wonderful conditions. So Campos making the most of that so far. It's not, yeah, we do keep mentioning the altitude, and I think it's because our hearts are going out to the athletes that are doing an event like this, a 3,000 metre steeplechase at over 5,000 feet of altitude. Ouch. But as you see, a lot of East Africans here who will be perhaps used to living and training and pushing themselves at this sort of altitude. So it won't affect them as much maybe as someone that was spends all their time at sea level. But that's assuming, I'm assuming that these athletes spend a lot of time at altitude. That's the talent down there. Selaruto of Romania was up towards the left-hand side. Gesese of Ethiopia, the 19-year-old, fourth placer at the World Juniors. And Jacqueline Koech made the final in Budapest at 19. She was up towards that end as well. That's Kenneth Tufa and Shannon Chepkemoi of Kenya, seventh at the World Juniors. I mentioned a whole load of women here from the World Junior Championships in Lima that finished in the top 8. And Sembo Alameo was the winner in Lima last year. She's been on the Diamond League circuit. She's not here today, but it's the best of the rest in terms of under 20 steeplechasers, very much here in Nairobi. A wonderful experience for them to race in a senior competition in a World Continental Tour Gold. Let's see how they get on. They've got a pacemaker down there that's targeting 9:20. And the qualifying time for the World Champs, 9:23. The meeting record here, a really fast 9:04.95 from Nora Geratu of Kazakhstan back in 2022. Geratu's to run under 9:10 here in these conditions. We saw in the men's steeplechase, it went out pretty quickly. Edmund Serem has run under 8:10 a few times this season, and he faltered massively in the last kilometre, held on to the win, but more towards the 8:30 mark versus the 8:10 pace they'd hit in the first couple of kilometres. So these women here at the moment, they look like they're getting underway a bit quieter, a bit calmer. Biwott of Kenya is doing the pacemaking here, but it doesn't look lightning quick, and the athletes just getting themselves ready here for the first barrier. That's a tough way to take that first barrier in a big pack. It's hard to sight it, but luckily looks like all 12 of them got over it, no problem.
Well, they're looking for 3:06 at the first kilometre, so 9:20 is the target time. That obviously is 9:18 speed, or I suppose if you look at the lack of barriers on the first lap, then it's about 9:18 tempo. She hopes to be there until 1,400 metres, almost halfway, but her personal best is 10:21, and I think she got woken up there a little bit because the first 100 metres looks very, very slow indeed. We'll see how this goes, but yeah, 3:06 we're looking at for the first kilometre, and the pack is pretty bunched, which suggests to me they're not being stretched here.
Over the first water jump, and Chepkemoi of Uganda, the first out of the racers. She's in the red Adidas strip right behind the pacemaker there. And Chepkemoi of Uganda, really one to watch. As an 18-year-old, she was 8th in the senior world cross country. And when you've got Perez Chemutai, the Olympic champion in 2021, silver medalist in Paris from Uganda, I wonder if she's perhaps inspiring the younger athletes like Lois Chepkemoi here, and we've got Nancy Chepkurui from Uganda as well, two very talented youngsters. Just great to see the whole pack all together. There's one woman at the back who I think just struggled over that first water jump, and is still making up the deficit from that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how well Chep Koech goes here. She's one of the 13 women who have broken 9 minutes, 8:57 she ran in at the London Diamond League back in 2023. But it is still a very, very select group of athletes who have broken 9 minutes. Slightly smaller, I think, than the group of men who have broken 8 minutes for the steeplechase on the men's side.
Real issues over that barrier there. I don't know what happened. If someone stepped out, got in someone else's way, it was almost a domino effect. They all ground to a halt, but they've all got up, stayed on their feet, and then got back up to speed here. But all it takes is one athlete to drift out slightly. Oh, what a shame. I was wondering, Karen Chibet was moving really well, and then suddenly she disappeared. So there you go. That was the mishap there at that barrier, and that's a real shame for Karen Chibet. She was moving through the field nicely. Let's hope she's not done any permanent damage. So apologies, I did miss that. I saw sort of the concertina ring effect with the group. Have a look here at the replay. There's Jabet on the back. Ah, what a shame. I think she gets her foot caught. She's coming into the barrier and then just totally winded by landing on it there. 3:03 through the first kilometre. Pretty swift. 3:03, 3:04 or so. So faster than the 3:06 they were aiming for. And Biwott of Kenya, she's only a 9:20 athlete at her best. She's running really, really well here, taking these women through a number of laps much faster than her personal best speed.
Yeah, it didn't look that quick, did it, to begin with, but they have picked it up, there's no doubt about it. These three beginning to move away, and now we've got that single file you expect when the tempo starts stretching a field out. Hannah, you're right. Kip Koech, the Commonwealth champion, just waiting for her to really turn it on in the second half once the pacemaker Biwott moves out of the way. They skip over that water jump barrier, and you can see the athletes who do put, and that's a really awkward fall there, I think, from Stella Ruto of Romania.
Karen Jabet, she really ran into that barrier. I'm really worried about ribs and whatnot. I was hoping she was just winded, but she was down on the floor for a while there. There's Kip Koech into second place as well at the moment. The 21-year-old moving well, slotting in behind the pacemaker. And hats off to Joyce Biwott. She's done a big job there. She steps aside and almost unleashes Jacqueline Kip Koech. Immediately, Kip Koech just upping the pace, separating herself from the other athletes. So Diana Chepkamoy in second place at the moment. World Junior bronze medalist last year.
Well, Kip Koech had a funny season in 2023, didn't she? Because she ran that 8:57 in London, then she went to the World Championships in Budapest, where it was sweltering hot. Do you remember, Hannah? We were both there. It was really hot and humid in the mid-30s, and she finished in 8th place there with 9:14, and you'd have expected her to go a lot better than that. Maybe she likes the sort of relatively dry heat of Nairobi and temperatures not up in the 30s. It's a rather lovely 23, 24 degrees in the early evening in Nairobi. And, that water, I'm sure, has a nice cooling effect too. She's looking strong here. Athletes behind her stretched now, and single, while people running almost in isolation behind her.
Now, Wosane Asefa of Ethiopia trying to give chase here to Kip Koech. And Jacqueline Kip Koech, is starting to look laboured here. Is this 2 laps to go or 3? 3 laps to go for Jacqueline Kip Koech, and the knee lift has just gone ever so slightly. They're all stuttering into the barriers, and that's not necessarily unusual in a steeplechase, but the gap that Jacqueline Kip Koech had on the field has just been whittled away with every hurdle. And Asefa, an 18-year-old with a personal best of 9:54, really outrunning that personal best at the moment. She could be on for that.
Well, I was going to say, I was wondering if that early tempo was a little bit too quick, 3:03, 9:09 pace, but of course the meeting record is 9:04 by Nura Daruto of Kazakhstan. That was 3 years ago, so it's perfectly possible to get down towards 9 minutes in Kenya, in the altitude of Nairobi. 2006-17.6. Wow, what a differential, Hannah. If that clocking was right for the first kilometre, they've gone, let's say, 3:04 and then about 3:13.
Yeah, I think the pacemaker was doing a good job, but they did slow. Biwott slowed ever so slightly, and Kip Koech, she may be pushed on for around about 150 metres. You can almost do yourself damage, sort of peak your lactic a little bit, and then pay for it, because Asefa is right on the back of Kip Koech here. She moves wide, and that indicates she's getting close to Kip Koech, and Gasise making a good move round the outside as well. The 19-year-old who was 4th at the World Junior Championships. I told you they were all there. Gasise actually DNF'd her only steeplechase so far this year, so going much better here with 2 laps to go. It was an 82nd lap there though. That's more on sort of the 10-minute pace, and we've got another faller there. And, just caught their toe on the barrier as they're coming over. That's the fatigue we're going to see at this stage in the race.
Absolutely, yeah. Sun in your eyes, fatigue. Your feet are wet inside those shoes. It doesn't take much to send you down and over, and falling the latter stages of steeplechase is doubly cruel. You're hurting that much more. But Kip Koech has stayed doggedly in the lead until now. And then, of course, it's 7:01. I think that's Friwot Gesese who's taken the lead, the tallest of them all, the Ethiopian.
And it's almost like Jacqueline Kip Koech's head has gone down. We mentioned that super fast clocking back in 2023, she's in the top 10 all time, the Kenyan, but she's just struggling here with 500 metres to go. I do think the Commonwealth Games champion from 2022 is going to be out of this here, Kip Koech. as the other athletes, the other Ethiopians take up the running. Gasisa from Asefa at the moment. Asefa again going wide, and Tufa of Ethiopia is the athlete there in third place. Personal best this year of 9:38. These women are all up to near towards their personal best clocking at altitude.
Well, that previous lap was an 81. That's a 77. So it has picked up a little bit, and they've got separation now from Kip Koech, and maybe she's not in her best racing shape just yet, the 21-year-old. She's still so young, is Jacqueline Kip Koech, and it's, you know, with all due respect, is what happens in September at those World Championships that really matters. You've got to get your domestic trials right, but races like this are all part of the building blocks towards having a strong season. They're not vital in their own way.
200 metres to go in the women's 3,000 metre steeplechase. Gasise pushing at the front. She's run a patient race, and she's only taken up the running in the last 400 metres or so. She goes wide on the water jumps to give herself the best line at the curve, back towards 100 metres to go, but she's definitely not shaking off. We're saying Asefa or Kina Tufa at the moment. Gasise trying to push from the front, and this could be the first time we're saying Asefa takes the lead. She does it over the final barrier when it counts, kicks hard. Asefa, the 18-year-old from Ethiopia, is going to shatter her lifetime best. She's only just under 10 minutes before this race, and she's gone all the way down to 9:30 with a brilliant last lap of 73 seconds. Gasisa actually faded down to third as a strong finish from Kina Tufa took her up into second place. But the crowd went slightly quiet there as we had three Ethiopians running away from a lot of strong Kenyan athletes. They will be delighted, but I think the crowd would have preferred to see Jacqueline Kip Koech hold on to that lead.
Well, isn't she delighted? Asefa, 7:11 on her back, Asefa on her front. Wosane Asefa improving unbelievably, Hannah, from 9:54 to 9:30. Now, I don't know if the 9:54 was at altitude, but the it was actually it was in Nairobi as well, wasn't it? Last year, about this time last year. So she's just knocked 24 seconds off her lifetime best. No wonder she's banging the track there in happiness.
So we look back here in Jacqueline Kip Koech was leading. And, she's a bit out of sorts last year. Kip Koech just 9:19 to her name, and I was really hoping in the middle stages of this race was her announcing herself back to full fitness. With Kip Koech in the end, a distant fourth there, as Gasisa, Asefa and Tufa fought it out in the last 50 metres. Asefa was always there or thereabouts. She was staying very close, very engaged and switched on. And it was only really here, this is her first sort of proper move to try and take the win. And she took it convincingly in the end of the last 50 metres. Gasisa just exhausted off that last barrier, couldn't hold on to second place in the end.
Galloping home, Asefa there, looking absolutely superb, full of running off the final barrier. Waiting for that time to be confirmed, but 9:30.70 is what came up on the clock, and that puts her just outside the world top 20 for this year. But the altitude factor, of course, is hugely significant compared with the conditions in places like Doha, which had the fastest time in the world this year, where Faith Cheretich ran 9:05, the world's top time.
We can see Wosane Asefa 9:30.68. Taking competitive women's steeplechase. I wonder if she'll get the opportunity to go to a Diamond League next. You very much hope that for these athletes. If you can win, I almost kind of think if you win a Continental Tour Gold, that should be your ticket to a Diamond League. You always qualify for getting to go up to that next level of competition.
You're saying it should be a sort of part of the rules.
Yeah,
no, that's not a bad idea.
What is
Hannah,
it?
You need to write in about that.
Well, you win 3 bronzes, you get yourself in a silver.
Yeah,
win a couple of silvers, get yourself to a gold. Yeah, I don't know, some sort of.
If you win 2 golds, you make
get straight to the World Championship. No, but it's kind of because for some athletes, when they know they're developing, they've got something to show, but you can't always get a lane at these meets because you haven't got the. You get stuck in this conundrum of how do I prove I'm good and I can't get.
And you talk to the
races.
agents, and of course, getting athletes into the Diamond League meetings is a massive challenge very often, even when an athlete has done remarkable things in a small, low-profile meeting, perhaps.
And that was the thing, I think Shafiqa Maloney, if we look back at that women's 800 metres, she's 4th at the Olympics, but she said she didn't have that many competition opportunities. She's not been able to cut her teeth in competitive races. And it's part of developing as an athlete. Campos of Brazil is really using the opportunity here in Nairobi. She's a lifetime best, perfect on the board.
Well,
the board might not be perfect. She was perfect on the board.
That 681 in round 2 was a massive meeting record. Before tonight, the meeting record by Rotaru Koteman of Romania was 650 from 4 years ago. And actually, the athlete in second place, always, when she jumped 670 in round 2, that was a meeting record as well. So they are smashing it up here. Beautiful conditions, slight following wind, the altitude, the thin air to assist them. Here is always a card, no jump, 670, and then a no jump. What can she do here in round 4? She's chasing Campos's 684 in round 4, and that is big. Nice height, really good technique, beautiful technician, lovely leg shoot there, and she's all smiles, and that's why 6 meters 94 from the Egyptian. That is massive. Her previous lifetime best 675, 694. Oh, the wind just over the limit, plus 2.4 for that 4th round, but she has the lead.
As a result of the women's steeplechase, confirming Wosane Asefa 9:30 in her personal best, and a few DNFs there. We saw Stella Rutu struggle over one of the barriers, and Karen Chibet ran into one and totally wind herself. We hope they're both okay. But I was just thinking, no one, it was a great jump from Campos, but it was still just beneath that world qualifying mark. I think 686. So I thought, Ois has done it. She's gone over the qualifying mark. But as you say, unfortunately, it will have that small little W next to it. That doesn't discount it from the overall competition. She will still be the leader, so she's still got the opportunity for maximum points and the prize money and everything here from Nairobi. But she'll just hope that wind can drop and she can get a legal big jump in.
We'll go back to the women's hammer throw, which was much earlier on. And Rose Loga of France opened her account with 72.29, a superb effort from Loga. Just looking at her card, she's a 73.17 throw, so that's very nearly a lifetime best from her in the first round. The bronze medalist from the Europeans in Rome last summer, Loga. Still only 22, she's a youngster in hammer throwing terms. Well, the next event on the track, the women's 100 meters. Conditions in Kenya do assist the sprinters so much. The meeting record 10.67 by the legendary Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price of Jamaica. That was 3 years ago. But only 6 women have broken 11 seconds so far this year. I wonder if any more can do so tonight here in Nairobi. Fastest time in the world this year, 10.92 by Tia Clayton of Jamaica. That was in Doha a couple of weeks ago. So let's take a look then. Doreen Waka, 30 years old, best of 11.63. Proudly sporting that Kenyan vest. The last race, a win in Nairobi, 11.91. Millicent Ndoro, 38 years old, but 11.55, her best from 3 years ago. The last race, a solid 223.7. Sebele is next out there. Seone Bakani Sebele, Botswana. She's an 11.25 performer. Then Hamida, she goes in lane 3. Basant Hamida, 12 times an Egyptian champion. Has been running really well over 400 meters recently, 50.77 from her. Refilwe of Botswana in Doha. She, in the West Asian Games on the 16th of 5th, she ran 11.30. She's in good form. Smith Barnett of Liberia. Semi-finalist the World Indoors in Nanjing. She's a 10.99 performer at her best, only 11.35 so far this year. Maia McCoy, second in the All Africa Games 100 last year. She's in great form on the 19th of 4th, running 11.02 in Gainesville, Florida. And she was second in Rabat last Sunday, just 6 days ago, in 11.08. She's in fine form, is McCoy. She has lane 6. There's the full lineup. Waka Ndoro, Hamida Ray, Smith Barnett, McCoy, Refilwe, and Sebele. Well, a few of them yet to reach the starting area Here they come jogging across the arch that they enter the stadium through. Is a little way away. Waka goes in 1, Ondoro in 2, then Hamida, she goes in 3. Does Basant Hamida, 11.02, her lifetime best. Can she get under 11 seconds here? Shannon Ray in 4, Destiny Smith Barnett 5, McCoy in 6, Refilway 7, Sebele goes in lane 8. Shannon Ray, the American who goes in lane 4, best of 11.09 a couple of years back. She's run 11.3 this year, but she set a season's best in her last race on the 3rd of May, so she hasn't raced for nearly a month. And her 3 fastest times all came in 2022. That was her best ever season. Went out in the semi-final of the Olympic trials last year at 100, did Shannon Ray. Just looking to see if everybody's out there. I think they are. It's rather a deceptive side-on view, that one. But yeah, they are all there. 8 athletes. So from the extreme right, Doreen Waka of Kenya, then her compatriot Millicent Ndoro goes in lane 2, second to right. In lane 3, Basant Hamida of Egypt. 11.52 her best this year. Shannon Ray goes in 4. Destiny Smith Barnett in 5. Maia McCoy there goes in lane 6 for Liberia. Second in the Rabat 100 last Sunday in 11.08. Very close to a lifetime best of 11.02. Watch her. Lives in Memphis, USA. So many of these African athletes are based in the USA, have enjoyed scholarships in the US university system and have developed their skills, their abilities with great coaching and facilities in the USA. Refilwe Botswana in 7, nearest the camera there, Sebele of Botswana. The crowd being asked to silence, a lot of noise. Well, they get underway, no trouble at all. Really strong running there from Smith Barnett, fourth away from the camera. Smith Barnett tearing away from this field. Maia McCoy coming back. Is McCoy going to get there? Yes, she does. Takes it by half a metre. Brilliant from McCoy. Carried on accelerating. They say the best sprinters reach top speed at around 70 metres. Well, she seemed to get quicker and quicker. In actual fact, it's an optical illusion usually. It's a case of maintaining your form the best. And as others decelerate and start slowing a bit the last 20 or 30, if you can hold your form, then you will appear to be accelerating because you'll go past them. And that's just what happened to Maia McCoy there. That's a lovely win. Looking very, very cool and calm and collected, isn't she? Not celebrating that one too visibly, but she's got to be excited, Hannah, because that was a super... Look, she didn't get a great start, perhaps the worst start of all.
Very similar to Joseph Fahnbulleh, also of Liberia, in the men's 200, of a bad start, and then McCoy, like Fahnbulleh, just finding something in the last section of the race here. I think she was still accelerating there. She could have gone away and away, and to keep your cool there, I think when the start goes wrong, shows a real calmness and professionalism that McCoy has brought to the race here. At Smith Barnett, just wonder if something happened in the last 20 metres. Her momentum just faltered, and she was so fluent, so fast out of the blocks, and then just wasn't in the last 20 metres. But Maia McCoy continuing that good momentum. You mentioned that brilliant second in Rabat, and now a win in Nairobi.
Well, 11.21 her winning time, moving away from Smith Barnett. Her compatriot, the pair of them, 1 and 2 for Liberia. I don't think that happens too often. 11.21 to 11.29, and the Egyptian Basant Hamida in third. 11.49, a couple of strides back there. Hamida, Refilwe of Botswana, Morangi Refilwe finishing in fourth place, 11.57, but super racing there. And then just like the men's 200, that was a 100 on the women's side, full of changes of positions.
They're running into a headwind now. If we've seen that following wind in the women's long jump going the other way, I'm wondering if we're getting a bit of a headwind for these athletes now.
Well, the women's 100 result, yes, you can see minus 1.7 the headwind for the athletes. Maia McCoy winning from Destiny Smith Barnett, both of them from Liberia. Hamida of Egypt in third, and Refilwe, Morangi Refilwe, Botswana, back in fourth.
Still leading the competition. And here she is now.
McCoy going through the mix zone here. Great to see. Good load of interest from media down there. Lots of reporters getting quotes of all the athletes. Maia McCoy's got to get used to that. She's been performing so well this season.
Leading with 77.
Have a look back, see what's going on in the women's long jump. We're into round 6 now. McCoy Sao, France is down in 6th place at the moment. So 8th place at the moment, the 2-time French champion.
With 74.21.
Best jump, 5.90 coming in the second round. It's a season's best.
Long jump
Way below a personal best of 6.72.
Rugi So in her final jump from France.
So
let us show her some support, ladies and gentlemen.
4 valid jumps, a foul in round 5, so she's been finding the board okay, and a season's best, really important at this stage in the season. Sao, one more chance to try and move herself up. She's only 1 centimetre off Kipsang, who's in 7th place at the moment. The rest of the athletes all out over 6 metres. Sao looks a bit kind of unexcited by that, perhaps. Hard to tell from that camera angle, but it might be around about the same. Mid to high 5 metres for Sao.
Well, do you know what? I'm just looking here. She's her season's best, bizarrely, 5.53, when she is a 6.72 jumper, but it was back in 2017, so what, 8 years ago now.
There she goes. She wraps her competition with
5.72 for Sao. Exactly a metre off her lifetime best. 29 years old, clearly far from at her peak. A world-class performer at her best, but way below 6 metres today. Well, the crowd loving this one. The men's 800 is next.
See some of the athletes down there, ready in their starting position. And there's a full look, well, half a look at the start list, because it is going to run to 2 pages. Lots of athletes here to race in this men's 800 metres. We saw super quick time in the women's 800 metres from Odira, 1:58 for her. Pacemaking will be done by one Ferguson Rotich. Remember, he changed his name in honour of Alex Ferguson, the Man U manager, because they just kept winning, he said. Well, it's not the case at the moment.
How did that age?
Ferguson Rotich is a brilliant athlete. He's not pacemaking, my apologies. Ben Mahdi is doing the pacemaking. Rotich racing in his own right. Tokyo silver medalist over this distance. His best result last year in 2024 came at this meeting. He does seem to pop out 144 most seasons, but let's see what form Rotich brings to 2025. Legonolo Mokgeti of Botswana goes in lane 7. He's improved by 2 seconds this year. And Tumo Nkape, also of Botswana, goes in lane 6. He's in the same training group as the world leader Chipiso Masalela. Jonah Koech, the surprise winner of the Rabat Diamond League, a 6-second personal best over 1500, but he's a 144 guy. Let's see what he's got over his favourite distance. Aaron Chemungwa of Kenya goes in lane 4, All African Games champion last year. Nicholas Kabenai of Kenya takes lane 3. That's a 144 set in Nairobi at the Kenyan Championships a couple of years ago. Eret Nzikwinkunda of Burundi goes in lane 2. No, Kip Keino does. We lost the Burundi. Nzikwinkunda doesn't look like he's there. Cornelius Tuai. Quite a few 800s this year. He's always in the top 3. So apologies there if I missed Nzikwinkunda, but perhaps the Burundian not making the start line. A big field nonetheless, and Nkape maybe looking to build on the achievements of his training partner Chipiso Masalela. Same training groups, also Prudence Godiso, the world indoor champion on the women's side, so they've got a lot of talent. And Noe from that camp just came second in the women's 800 as well. It's a lightning quick start there. Now the same situation as we did in the women's, perhaps the pacemaker struggling to get up towards the front of the races, but he's doing a good job here. Ben Mahdi of Algeria does manage to get ahead of Chemaningwa of Kenya. It was a great start from him though, really looking to get ahead of the other athletes, and they're just giving chase here. But Jonah Koech with that 1500 metre strength, you've got to watch out for him in the closing stages. They would spread out across the field, across the track. This is very, very quick for the opening 400.
It is super quick, isn't it? But Ben Mahdi is taking them at a nice, steady pace here. We're looking 49.5. It might even be a little bit too quick as they come through, but it enables them to stride out strongly. 49.34. He's done his job really well, and this sets it up nicely for these fellas. He will step aside now, 300 to go.
Ben Mahdi has done a very, very good job here. Hopefully he is going to move wide enough to not interfere with the races. A good job from the Algerian. Kabane pulling up alongside Chemaningwa, who's gone past him. Jonah Koech just lying there in third place, trying to get himself past Chemaningwa. Koech with that 3:31 strength is going to be dangerous here in the last 150 metres. It's a strong move here from Koech. He's trying to get himself round the front here of Kabane. Kabane, a 144 man in Nairobi at altitude. And Koech, he's digging deep here in the last 50 metres. The American trying to take his second win this week on the circuit. It was Rabat last time on Sunday, and today it's Nairobi back in the 800 metres. 1:43.33. That's looks like it's just 100th outside of the meeting record of Emmanuel Wanyonyi set a few years ago. But that's a great time from Koech. It's a new personal best. He goes 4th on the world list this season, and he wasn't even meant to be in the 1500 last week, was he? That was the big story. He was meant to be in the 800 in Rabat. He got bumped out because there wasn't space for him. What does he do to respond? He wins the 1500 and then shows that he is a 143 man.
But you know what I loved about that? That was a classic case. They came off the bend side by side, 100 to go, a 1500 guy with all that strength and great 800 speed against an 800 specialist, and the 1500 guy outstrengthed. It's not a phrase I like to use actually, but I'm going to use it today. He outstrength. He was just stronger down the home straight than Kabane. Lovely race that, and so quick, 1:43.3, and that was set up wonderfully with good pacemaking from Ben Mahdi of Algeria.
Well, Jonah Koech left a little bit at the start there. Chemaningwa, furious pace through the first 200 metres. And Koech, his coach said he'd been trying to get him to run a 1500 seriously for the last couple of years, and he hasn't managed it. And it was almost this like accidental 1500 last weekend. And he's saying maybe Jonah will believe me now when I say he's a 1500 metre man. But I think Jonah Koech saying, no, I'm going to stay in the 800 because I'm a 143 guy. He's just run a massive personal best. He's taken around about a second off his lifetime best. He did represent the United States in Eugene at the World Championships there. He was then injured in 2023. It wasn't too far off the US Olympic team last year. He was 5th at their trials, and just getting faster with every year. And I think that's when you've got that consistency in training and you start to layer that together. I think that's what we're seeing for Jonah Koech. It's just rewriting his personal bests.
Well, the Americans are smashing it up at 800, aren't they? It continues from last year into this 2025 season. 1:43.32 for Jonah Koech.
So it ties the meeting record. That's very diplomatic of the Kenyan officials. Ties with Wanyonyi. They wouldn't want to erase him from the meeting record.
Yeah, no, exactly right. And of course, Masalela's world lead from Rabat last Sunday, 1:42.70. That was a fabulous 2-lap race, and many people love the 800. It's their favourite distance because it combines all that speed with tactical nous as well. It's obviously the shortest distance at which you change lanes, but that was a super win from Jonah Koech.
Olympic champion Cameron Rogers into the circle here in the women's hammer. Foul in the first couple of rounds. That's a big throw down. Trying to figure out whether this is live pictures of her 6th round throw or not. We're just into the closing stages of the women's hammer live. Canada, I think they waited 120 years for a throws champion. Ethan Katzberg managed it, and then a couple of days later they got Cameron Rogers as well.
Like a London bus. They come along in pairs. You wait ages for one and then 2 arrive.
So Rogers, that was her 3rd round effort, 74.73.
Yeah, we're playing catch up here. This was a little while ago. Now, Gelba next to go. Bianca Florentin Gelba of Romania. They have quite a reputation, a tradition in the heavy throws. She's a 74-metre thrower at her best, and that's lovely. That's around 73 metres from Gelba. Wow, isn't she going well? She opened with a no throw, then a 70.78, then a 71, then a 73.31. I'm not sure which of her throws this is. We're catching up, as we said. But the 34-year-old, and so many of the hammer throws do get better with age. They age like great wines. There it is, 73.31 in round 4 from her. And Gelbert can build on that as well. That is a season's best by a metre or so. Her idols are Usain Bolt and Asafa Powell, funnily enough. sprinters, the idols of a hammer thrower. But I guess it's about philosophy and focus and attitude as much as anything from event to event. It's sometimes too often the same.
Beatrice Nano from Norway up next, 2016 World Junior Champ. She extended her own national record by a metre in Ramona the other day. This facility that's delivering wonderful throws distances. Some cynical people are saying, can we really allow this place with this wind? And
for the discus?
Yeah, well, but it's producing good throws in the hammer and the shot as well.
But the wind doesn't assist the hammer.
Yeah, you're right. But what I loved was a response from Valerie Ullman saying, well, no, the track athletes have got their Cholafons, their Monacos, their places they go to test their limits. Ours is Ramona. It is legal.
I know, and I agree. The kind of, what do you say when a facility is going to give athletes 2 or 3 metres or more? Do you say, well, good luck to them? Or do you just say, no, you've got to ban it? I don't know. It's La Chaux de Fonds, exactly, that track in, is it French Switzerland?
Yes, yeah.
It's everybody goes there, and so about 7 out of 10 sprinters have set their personal bests.
But
there.
it's probably a lower altitude than here.
It's about 999 metres, but apparently has really favourable winds to La Chaux de Fonds. So it's one of those places where everybody goes and sets PBs at 100,
bang on 2.0 the whole time.
The prevailing winds are always behind the sprinters, I think, there.
Back with OS, who's leading the women's long jump with that wind-aided personal best. Should just be, not a personal best, but the wind-aided 694 that would have been a personal best. Caught the biggest of the gusts today. OS, there's a replay of the emotions from that 694. I wonder if she would have known the 2.4 wind reading straight away like that, or whether she had to find out afterwards.
Here's Campos. It was such a marginal over the limit following wind, wasn't it, for Oase? It was frustrating in a way, a bit of a shame, because 694 is massive. That puts you up there knocking on the door of the 7 metre club. Good on the board, Campos. We saw one jump earlier. I think it was by Oase? I can't remember who it was by. I think it was Lesty that I thought, I'm convinced, was a no jump. I've seen jumps much further back given as no jumps, but anyway, she was given it.
Results of the men's 800 metres, personal best for the first two. Jonah Koech, a 1 second personal best for the American, 1:43.32 to tie Emmanuel Wanyonyi's meeting record. Another good run from him. So just 2 races left. We've got a women's 1500 metres and a men's 100 metres.
It is the women's 1500 metres next up. Yes, 12 starters going in this one. There is the lineup. The meeting record is 4:01.50. Now that looks a little vulnerable to me. That was by Deribe Walteji 3 years ago. The world lead 3:50 through by Segaya Torun indoors back in mid-February. But this is a strong field. Purity Chepkirui, very experienced, only 22 years old. But ran the anchor leg for Kenya in the mixed relay at the World Cross Country in Belgrade last year and took gold, so she is a world champion, Purity Chepkirui. Chemutai on the outside as the pacemaker, tasked with going to 800 in 2:08, so 64 seconds per lap is exactly 4-minute tempo. Faith Chebet is there, Mwangi, Chepkirui, Ogwoka, Salet Alem, Abera, Hawi Abera, what's that? 2 times Ethiopian champion, Mbaye, Achiru, Gebehu, Degu and Charuto on the inside is just 19 years old. 5 teenagers going in this race. They're blooding a lot of young talent in this meeting. Faith Kipyegon, the wondrous Faith Kipyegon, the world record holder at 1500 mile, won this race in 2021. How well can they go here in her footsteps, this field? Last year, Mary Kiru winning in 4:06. The women's 1500 then, 3 3/4 laps of the track. Well, we're looking for 64 for the first 400 metres. That would be good, sensible running. A little bit of shoving, pushing and shoving there in the early stages. Coming across in the blue is Vikodi Chemutai. Now, she is just 15 years old. She's gone off like a rocket. Let's hope that she doesn't misjudge this one. So often with young pacemakers, the adrenaline flows and they go out way too quickly. And this looks super quick. This looks more like an 800 metres to me. Just needs to settle down here. She's gone through 200 in about 30 seconds. and I'm not sure many of them will want to live with this, and she's going further and further away, running like a scared rabbit out in front. She goes through 300 in about 44.5. She's going to go through 400 in about 60, way too quick, and she's dragged the field out to what I think is an unhealthily quick first lap. Hannah, let's see what the time is as she goes through 400 metres.
Well, she's already slowing slightly. Chemutai 44 and then 60 there, way too quick. I mean, that's 3:45 pace. Oh, we look at Faith Kipyegon trying to run a sub 4 minute mile. That would be perfect pacing for her towards the end of June. But Abera, an 18-year-old Ethiopian, the first out of the races behind. We're seeing some big moves there as the athletes further back in the pack. They would have made the right decision to not go with Chemutai, but they've got to kind of pay attention now and see what's going on in that second pack, as it will become a lot more tactical there.
Well, this is where you need somebody on the infield screaming at the pacemaker, slow down, you're no use whatsoever, 10 or 15 metres out in front like that. Abera in the red continues to lead the pack, who are bunching now. They've slowed down to more sensible tempo. Moving down the outside is Purity Chepkirui with 9 on her leg. She's in second place in that pack at the moment as the pacemaker goes through in 67 second lap there. So she ran the first 400 in 60.6. The next 300 at 67 tempo. It's painful to see, but it's very inexperienced and pretty helpless, pretty useless pacemaking. It's no good whatsoever to that pack.
Well, as with the men's race, we had a similar sort of yo-yo of the pacing in the men's race. It's actually very hard to now lift your pace again and try and go. It really cons your legs into a different pace when you slow down, and it can be really hard to lift it. And we can see Mbaye with the 906 on her front. I'm not sure, I think she should normally have her name on the front, but from her face I think there's Examawit and Mbaye moving up onto the shoulder of Chepkirui here. Yep. As they go through the first kilometre in 2:40, 2:42. It's still very quick, still close to 4 minute pace.
We could see a 4 minute run here. Remember that meeting record 4:01.50 from World Cheji 3 years ago. Chepkirui though at the front at the moment. She's massively talented, close to sub 2 for 800 in Gaborone on the 12th of April. She ran 2:00.99 there at altitude. She hits the front, hits the bell now about 3:03, so they have slowed this last 150 or so. I don't think it's going to be sub 4 unless something spectacular happens this next 300. But we have a great race in our hands. This pack of 5 away, 300 metres to run. Still in second place Mbaye, silver medalist at the World Indoors back in 2022 in Belgrade. Abera moving down the back straight as well in the red, twice the Ethiopian champion. She was second in Herzegovina back in April in a mile in 4:26 on the roads. But Purity Chepkirui finding extra tempo there with 200 to run. A nice acceleration going through 200. And we've got a battle on our hands here. And it may not be sub 4, but it's going to be a very solid time all the same with these 4 away. Abera moving around the outside. The silver medalist in the All Africa Games 1500 last year. Can she take this one in Nairobi in front of the Kenyan crowd? Chepkirui trying desperately to stay in front, but Abera just will not get let go. She keeps pounding away there and eases past over the last 30 or 40. 4:06.5. Well, what a shame that first 400 was run at an insanely quick tempo, the first 600 or so really, and that probably accounts for about 3 seconds or more in a race of this nature. I think it slowed dramatically. A really tasty last 200, 250 there from that leading quartet. But it could have been so much quicker. Nonetheless, fabulous race and a nice win from Hawi Abera, silver medalist in the mixed relay in Bathurst in Australia a couple of years back for the Ethiopian squad. And we know she's in good form, but I'll tell you what, really stubborn resistance from Purity Chepkirui out in front, Hannah.
And Abera, Hawi Abera, she was behind the pacemaker for much of this, and then got swallowed up at this stage. I think this is just going through the 800 metre mark when Chepkirui took up the running. And for me, Abera, she just kept very calm. She drifted way back down the pack and then worked her way back through it, and actually did pace and gauge her effort really well. And she was only 12th in Morocco on Sunday. That was a personal best, but that's a very different style of racing, and you could be disheartened by coming as far down as 12th when you're used to being competitive in Patra age group races. So for Abera to turn that round just in 5 days and come here and deliver a great tactical race, 5 or 6 days, and come away with a win, I don't know, just sort of shows she's got a lot of tools in her toolbox.
Absolutely. Nice win. Tiny figure, isn't she? Goodness me. But Abera, after 12th in Rabat, a winner today. Quite a turnaround. And just the one race left on the track. It is the men's 100. Many of the fans turning up for that. The Canadians, of course, are there in strength, supporting their two Olympic champions in the hammer contests.
We'll go back round to Bianca Gelber for her final throw. She's in 4th place at the moment. She was a World Youth Champion a couple of times, World Junior Champion twice as well, and has made so many global finals, Gelber. She was 6th in Tokyo, that's sort of her best global final. See if she can find something extra here in round 6. She's coming in with the best of 73.31 from round 4. That looks very healthy here in round 6. Just patiently wait. Yeah, good clap there from Gelber. 73.99 for Bianca Gelber. That's a significant season's best, and it's actually 20 centimetres below her personal best. That could be one of her best throws in recent years.
Her throws in rounds 4, 5 and 6 have all been beyond her season's best before today. Now Cameron Rogers then, the Olympic champion from Canada. 77.93 in round 4, and that's another great effort. It's a nice series from her. After a couple of sort of sighting throws, she fouled out in rounds 1 and 2, then a 74 in round 3, then 77.93. That's the biggest throw of the day for Cameron Rogers to take the win. 77.53 in round 5 and 77.44 in round 6. I mean, Hannah, that is dialed in supremely technically. All 3 throws, rounds 4, 5, 6, over 77 metres for Cameron Rogers.
And we had Thomas Roller in the men's javelin finishing in 2nd place as one of his furthest throws in years, and that's a bit of a shame to see Anita Vladarczyk, the world record holder. She did throw a season's best, but she was down in 7th place, and that graphic's wrong. Cameron Rogers and Yannick Asanovoid did throw further than that. Obviously we've just seen Cameron Rogers in the pole position.
Well, back to this women's long jump, and Bedrak, Maia Bedrak of Croatia. Bedrak then, just 25 years old. Opened with a 6.26, then a 6.42, no jump in round 3, and then she hit the big one in round 4 with a 1.7 wind, a 6 metres 58 for Bedrak. And there it is. Perfect wind behind her, giving her a nice bit of help.
Sandra Campos have already had 1 win for Brazil. De Silva setting a new South American record in the men's javelin. Campos, she's done the furthest wind legal jumps of the championship of the event, so she will be credited with the meeting record. 6.84 in the 4th round. It's a new lifetime best. There she is, talking to De Silva actually. He's helping her with a bit of coaching, I think, there. A bit of the replays.
Well, Anois, she's been on fire, has the Egyptian. Opened with a no jump, but it just got better and better. 6.70 in round 2, no jump in round 3, 6.94, that monster in round 4, the best jump of the day, although with just over the legal limit for the wind, plus 2.4, no jump in round 5, and then 6.60 in round 6. But a replay of that round 4 jump, we saw that a little while ago. It's huge. Plus 2.4. If you put that back to a legal wind, it wouldn't make much adjustment of it. She does get the win by 10 centimetres by dint of that round 4 effort. Campos 6.84, a fabulous second, and that was a legal jump with hardly any tailwind. And Bedrak in 3rd, the Croatian, with 6.58 from her round 4. All the the best jumps for those 3 coming in round 4. Abera then winning that 1500 metre, 4:06.52. Purity Chepkirui tried desperately to keep her at bay, but the Ethiopian getting past her. Alem taking 3rd place there in that women's 1500 metres to bracket Purity Chepkirui. But pacemaking leaving a little to be desired, unfortunately. Otherwise it could have been significantly quicker, I feel.
So just 1 race left here for the Kip Keino Classic, the men's 100 metres. And this event has produced two of the top 10 fastest times ever in the history of men's 100 metre sprinting. It's Ferdinand Omanyala with his African record set here, and Trayvon Bromell went faster at 9.76 to Omanyala's 9.77. So that, of course, over at the Kasarani Stadium. So coming here to this new Ulinzi Stadium, we were unsure what we were going to see from the track surface, but we've seen some brilliant times in some of the other events. So still very much on for personal best territory here for the likes of Asamoto of Canada, who went sub-9, or nearly went sub-9 last year. And that's Otongu Bogongni of the Cameroon. He will go in lane 2. Odiambo of Kenya will go out in lane 8. He's fourth in Gaborone in 10.22 in the Continental Tour Gold event there. And this is Verheijen of Belgium, the national record holder over 200 metres. He wasn't due to be in this 100, but I did think if we had any withdrawals, any extra lanes, we would see some of those men from the 200 come back and have a go. This is Massa Mwangani, who was in the 200 metres earlier, got a brilliant start and then was just run down by Joseph Fahnbulleh in the closing stages, 20.47 for him. He is a 9.91 competitor, second fastest on personal best. Lachlan Kennedy of Australia, great silver at the World Indoor Championships, and then was second at the National Championships to Ronan Brownan by thousandths in a personal best of 10 dead. Wouldn't he love to go sub 10 today? Bayanda Walaza of South Africa, the double World Junior champion last year, beating the likes of Gout Gout from Australia. It was after taking a silver in the 4x1 with the South African squad out in Paris. We're also due to have some other athletes. I'll just see if they come through the gates. We were due to have William Race in lane 3 as well. There is Ferdinand Omanyala, though, the African record holder from this meeting back in 2021, 9.77. He's had 2 good seconds this year behind Akani Sambini. He's a season's best, still 10 dead from Gaborone back at the start of April. Good second in Rabat the weekend, and 10.05 last weekend. So Omanyala, he's in good form. I think he might have been relieved to not see Akani Sambini on one of his start lists, particularly at home here. He does say, though, come here and race me. Come and race me in my backyard. He brings so much energy to this Kip Keino Classic time and time again. Be great to see him get his first sub-10 of the season here at this meet that he's been such a big part of over the last few years. Mentioned Asamoto, part of the mixed 4x1 squad that took the gold at the World Relays. But Asamoto, I think this is his favourite event, his better event, and he did run a personal best in the 200 earlier. There's Otongu. Lachlan Kennedy was just on our screens before that, and the oceanic record of 9.93 with Patrick Johnson has stood for 22 years. And Lachlan Kennedy and Ronan Browning are trying to get closer and closer to that magical 10-second barrier. Real opportunity for Lachlan Kennedy here at altitude in Nairobi. I think Verheijen of Belgium has come in to replace William Race. Massa Mwangani, I mentioned that good start in the 200 metres. If he can recreate that form here, put pressure on the likes of Ferdinand Omanyala, who will be to his left-hand side. But Bayanda Walaza of South Africa, a new name on the circuit. He took a great win in Croatia, in Zagreb, in the Continental Tour Gold in 9.94. The personal best, was 4th all-time on the junior rankings, and just 500ths of a second off Letsile Tebogo's world junior record. He goes there in the purple Puma strip in lane 5 alongside the African record holder Ferdinand Omanyala. Men's 100 metres featured 4 times here at the Kip Keino Classic over the years. It's always been won in sub 10. Will we get that again here in 2025 in Lindsay Sports Complex? Ferdinand Omanyala, African record holder, the Kenyan great, goes in lane 6 against the new youngster Bayanda Walaza, and Australia's Lachlan Kennedy in lane 4. And that's a good, maybe too good. I was going to say good start from Bayanda Walaza of South Africa. And they've been recalled. The tension was building for this race. It's a great way to end the meeting. And I wonder if Wolaza just went a little bit too quickly there.
Well, we'll have to see. Let's hope it's a green card. I hate to see disqualifications. I know those are the rules, and they have been for many years now. One full start and you're out. Let's hope, of course, it was not Ferdinand Omanyala in the red there, third from the bottom. Wolaza in the pink. Ooh, he did get away sharpish, didn't he?
And that's the problem, isn't it? Almost when you think someone's got a good start, and then you're like, oh, maybe it was too good. And Wolaza, we'll just have to wait and see what the officials decide. Wolaza taking a lot of time to amble back to the start line there.
Do you know, it's funny because Lachlan Kennedy there, right beside him in the orange, I was going to say had a terrible start, but I wonder if he sensed that Wolaza had got away early.
Green card for you. I think. I mean, Omanyala got a good start as well. I mean, it's fine margins. Is it? Well, they have decided it wasn't a false start, so maybe it was just a phenomenal start from Wolaza. We haven't got any of the computer feedback kind of numbers or anything to prove otherwise. So
is that a new category between legal and a full start? Phenomenal.
Phenomenal, yes. Get a green card and a thumbs up for a phenomenal. Let's see if he can recreate it. But it was good starts from Kennedy, Wolaza and Omanyala, but can they do it again as they settle into their blocks for a second time? So the stadium announcer asking the crowd to stay quiet. The start's so important in this event. Athletes needing utter focus. Lachlan Kennedy of Australia in 4, Bayanda Wolaza of South Africa in 5, Ferdinand Omanyala of Kenya in lane 6. The big names here in the men's 100. And that's a brilliant start from Omanyala. Wolaza not quite as good as he was in that recall, but here goes Lachlan Kennedy. Could Lachlan Kennedy go under 10 seconds for the first time and take a big win? 9.98 for Lachlan Kennedy. Finally, the Australian goes under 10 seconds. He's been waiting to do that for so long. Ronan Browning, I'm sure, will be watching on going, no, I wanted to do it first. But Lachlan Kennedy, silver in Nanjing, in his first indoor season. The Australians obviously don't run on indoor tracks all that often. And then to maintain that form into this early season, to go sub-10, but to beat Ferdinand Omanyala and the world junior champion, Bayanda Wolaza. Great run from Kennedy.
Superb start from Kennedy too. He was away before Wolaza, so he probably matched Omanyala. Omanyala third from left in the red, but Lachlan Kennedy in the orange held his form really well, was so strong through the second half. Look at Wolaza all over the place, the head rocking around. Omanyala well beaten by Wolaza as well, in third place though in front of the home crowd. There are bigger fish further down the road for him to be checking out. He won't be too worried about this. All smiles for Omanyala. He has stated he wants to get back into rugby later on in his life, before he's too old for it. Lachlan Kennedy though, 9.98, another Aussie goes sub-10. That is fantastic for the 21-year-old. The Aussie record 9.93. He's a little way off that, but boy oh boy, that is some win. Utilising the altitude, utilising the great conditions. And Hannah, did I see a wind of minus 1.7 came up initially? Surely that can't have been right. We'll see what comes up eventually, because the results caption doesn't show the wind speed on our computer.
Well, the women's was run into a headwind, so we could assume, it was only a few minutes ago, that Lachlan Kennedy's gone 9.98 into a headwind, beating Bayanda Wolaza in 10.03 for the South African. Ferdinand Omanyala 10.07. He's been very consistent in the early part of this season, but Lachlan Kennedy finally breaks the 10-second mark.
Well, what a great meeting it's been. The next meeting in the World Athletics Continental Tour Gold Series is the FBK Games, the Fanny Blankers-Cohen Games in Hengelo on Monday the 9th of June in 9 days' time. This was the 6th stop of the 11 meetings, so 5 to come. It's been a wonderful evening. Perhaps the performance of the meeting, that 800 metres, 1:43.32 by Jonah Koech of the USA. Do hope you've enjoyed it. Lovely having you with us. Thanks very much indeed. For myself, Tim Hutchinson, Hannah England. Bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.